Hello there and welcome to the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo. I'm your host, Joe Rimmer, joined today by Ian Doyle. How are you feeling, Ian?
I'm rather tired, but reasonably all right.
God, that was exciting, wasn't it? It was really exciting. Paul Gorst, how are you?
Yeah, I am very tired, but I sort of live in a permanent state of tiredness, so this is nothing new.
Yeah, we missed the train last night, didn't we?
We did, yeah. I mean, it's funny how you miss trains when you don't actually go for them, isn't it? That's tends to happen.
Waiting for that taxi for
For how many 2.5 hours? Yeah, only one place to wait for it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's where they show up.
Yeah.
Just by the bar as well. Yeah. Just pull up. Yeah.
And welcome to the Blood Red podcast. I hope you're all the listeners and all the viewers are happy people today.
Blurry-eyed.
Yeah, it's something that we've waited for a very long time. So looking forward to this one, getting tucked into this one. But first of all, a big thanks needs to go to
NordVPN.
NordVPN is right. The people at NordVPN need thanking. Thank you very much for sponsoring this podcast. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/bloodred and our link gives you 4 months on a 2-year plan. There's no risk at all with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the podcast episode description box. Some more housekeeping.
What do you have to do?
Sorry?
Give us a rating.
That's what I'm doing
Press
now.
the button.
More housekeeping. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all your support. If you'd like to give us a like, give us some stars, give us a thumbs up, press the bell for notifications. If you'd like to send me a question, I've got a couple of questions and comments to read out. More than happy to take them from the YouTube comments if you're watching along on YouTube. Otherwise, if you'd like to send them in advance, joe.rimmer@reachplc.com. Always happy to ask them on the Blood Red pod, although I won't be here on Friday, so someone else might have to ask them on Friday.
Another one? Honestly, what do you like?
Yeah. My little lad won Star of the Week, Ian, so I'm going to go to that. I'm going to choose that over
Star of the Week?
Star of the Week, yeah.
So he's won it today?
He wins it today and then on Friday. It's the trophy lift on Friday.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
So,
he's won it with 4 days to go.
But he doesn't know, so don't tell him, please.
Okay.
And then otherwise, before we continue, another little bit of housekeeping. Congratulations, Samuel, by the way, Star of the Week. Lots of people asking where you can order today's Echo. I believe that Ian's going to put that on the screen now. Ian, do it now. Yeah, today's Echo, historic one, I think.
Yeah.
It's one to keep. Ian, our producer, is going to drop the link into the podcast description and the YouTube comments. It's available to order worldwide. And not just that, you can order the standalone that Ian, Paul and Theo have worked ever so hard on, which
we've worked on it.
It goes on sale tomorrow. So again, same link. You can order that. You can also order the Matchday programme and a glossy magazine that Reach have worked on as well. They're all on this Reach Support Shop link that Ian is putting in the YouTube comments and in the podcast description if you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify or elsewhere. Or if you're struggling, just drop me an email and I will send you the link. That's all our housekeeping done. I've got a couple of questions, but before we get to them, let's just start with what was it like yesterday inside the ground, Ian?
Well, I was there from 1 o'clock until... felt like 1 o'clock in the morning. I think it was about 9:30, wasn't it, that we left?
Yeah.
So, okay, I'll come out and say this now. That's probably the best event experience at Anfield I can remember. And I'm nearly 50 years old, so I can remember winning the league in the 80s. Still not 50, another 11 months, just under 11 months to go. So, obviously, in terms of the game itself, you look at the actual occasion and the game and that kind of thing, and you've got Chelsea 2005 and you've got Barcelona 2019, and you could throw Dortmund in 2016, and you could possibly say it's a couple of them under Klopp, like Roma and Man City, the Champions League nights then. And then going back in terms of actual football game, Newcastle in 96. So you've
Forest.
got Forest as well in terms of that was more of a complete performance as it were. But in terms of an occasion, I think because you had a lot of factors going into it. The fact that everybody knew they were going to win the league, right? Even those of us who said Arsenal favourites for most of it had by that point accepted Liverpool were probably going to win the league. But you had the thing 5 years ago where me and Paul were there when they won it and they lifted it. And obviously it wasn't anything like the same. So that's 35 years basically since Liverpool have won the title and the fans have been able to celebrate. And what's interesting, I would liken it a little bit to, again, you two probably just not old enough to remember this, is when United won it in 93 for the first time in, I think it was 26 years. and they didn't actually win it from playing. They won it because I think Aston Villa had got beat against Oldham, I think it was. And so they've then played it, whether it was the following night, I think it might have been. And it's like the outpouring of emotion from beforehand is like, and you could kind of sense it just from watching it on the television. Obviously, it wasn't there. And it was like that, but it was almost like it was like twofold, threefold, fourfold because, well, there was a larger amount of people there to start with. But also because this is something that 35 years is a long time. And I think a lot of fans felt a little bit cheated by what happened in 2020. It's like they've been on board with what happened in 2019 when still probably my favourite season covering Liverpool is every single week where they'd win a game. You go, I can't believe they've won again. And they ended up falling short in the Premier League. To win it the following year, would you agree with that sense that season was probably more enjoyable than the 2020? In sense of obviously you were reporting on them in the second season, but in terms of just actually watching them. Because there was kind of a sense of they didn't. The pressure was more on them in 2020 to actually win it, having missed out in 2019.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I was working here for the 2018-19 season, but just sort of in the office for games and stuff. It was more just how consistent both City and Liverpool were in the run into that season. What did he finish on with? 97 and 98 points. I think Liverpool only lost one all season, didn't they? And had they not lost to Man City, they would have been Centurions and Premier League and Champions League winners, which was an unthinkable achievement, really. But yeah, I can see what you mean. 2019-20 was different in that you just sort of steamrolled everyone from the off, didn't he? And it was only you drew to United in October, I think, and then by March they had to wait till March for the next time to drop points. Watford. So that was, it was unbelievable watching them win every week, but I suppose there wasn't a whole lot of jeopardy in it in terms of the way the previous season had been when it could have gone either way on the last day, I guess.
Whereas with this season, at the start of the season, nobody was expecting Liverpool to go for the league. In fact, they may have thought like top four, perhaps. Did any of us back Liverpool to win the league?
No. I thought it might have been similar to last season.
yeah. Which, to be fair, would still be a decent season under a new manager when you think that Klopp had gone after 9 years in charge. But going back to what I was mentioning about the occasion itself, is that everybody was there to enjoy it because they'd missed out on it 5 years earlier, and therefore they'd missed out on it for 35 years. They knew that they'd be able to win it at Anfield, so there was that expectation at the start of the day. And the players have spoken afterwards and said that when they came in on the team bus, it says we knew and Slot said it. There's absolutely no way we were going to get beat because it was so emotional even then. And then it's kind of just the way that the game panned out. They go 1-0 behind, which is what they've done several times this season. They fight back, they score the goals, and it's, Diaz gets the goal, he's had a good season. McAllister gets the goal. He's the one who probably in the last 2 or 3 months has properly stepped up. Salah gets his goal in the second half and does this selfie celebration. And then the only thing that was missing really was Endo coming on, scoring. Scoring.
Yeah.
She would have probably had to retire football at that point if that had happened. And then the whole of the way the celebrations went as well. It was. I don't think I've ever seen a team enjoy themselves quite as much at winning something. I mean, every team that wins something, certainly if you avoid relegation and you don't even have to win something, just achieve your goal. Yeah, it's something worth celebrating. But for them to have, because you had the mixture of the players who'd been there 5 years ago and were denied this moment, having put in all the efforts to win the league. And then you had the ones from last year who got reasonably close, thought they possibly could have done it and they wanted to give a big send-off for Jurgen Klopp and they weren't able to do it. So you had all those emotions put together. And then on top of all the fans you mentioned who'd missed out on it for, 5 years ago. And 2 generations of Liverpool fans hadn't had that. And that they could actually then win it at Anfield. That makes it all the more sweeter because that in itself is still unusual. So it couldn't have, as I said, it couldn't have been scripted any better. And yeah, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of an actual occasion at Anfield, it's not been bettered. And in my lifetime, by the definition that it would take them, have to take them 35 years to not win it again, and I'd be nearly 85 by that point, and I'm pretty sure I won't be going the game by that point. It probably won't happen again. It probably, retirement age will be 90 by that point.
Yeah. Ian, have you got moments missed?
So you get an analysis on?
Yeah, all of it. I can't say anything. Yeah, I do. I won't be seeing it like that again. To be honest, no.
I did wonder because Liverpool had sort of become a procession, hadn't they? And I think only the sort of most cautious and scarred supporters weren't believing that Liverpool were going to win the Premier League title. I think, you know, us covering it as journalists, it started to become apparent around about February time that Arsenal were running out of steam. So you sort of wonder when it actually does happen and it is confirmed and, you know, the whistle blows, will it almost be a sense of, you know, anticlimactic, but it wasn't, to be fair. And I think the club deserve huge credit for ensuring that wasn't the case. Van Dijk's message for them to all wear red seemed to do the trick.
My dad, I've never, ever, ever, ever seen him wear a Liverpool shirt in any way, shape or form for any occasion. Wore a Liverpool shirt about sorry, this is a complete tangent, but about when they played Augsburg in 2016.
Yep.
Neil Jones and I went and we were sitting in one of like the sort of corporate bits, and we had to do like a guess the score, and we guessed 1-0, and we got a signed Lucas shirt.
Right.
And Lucas Leiva's on. My dad always used to stick up for Lucas Leiva, and I always remember he had an argument in the stands once with someone because this guy was slagging him off. So I gave it to my dad, and it just went into a cupboard and disappeared.
Did he dust it off?
He wore it yesterday. He wore it yesterday for the match. I was, yeah.
Well, my mate came over to me at half time, and he was just wearing some red Nike t-shirts, and I was like, it seems like everyone's like listening to this call to arms, and there was a journalist, I won't name the journalist, but he was there as a fan, and I don't think a lot of people would know that he was a Liverpool fan, but he was there in a Liverpool kit, and it was just like literally everyone there as listening to what Virgil had to say, and it did make the occasion more sort of colourful, and it was just that sort of scene, wasn't it? You know, when you're just casting your eye out onto the Cop or the Anfield Road, and it was all just a sea of red. It was brilliantly done. And then when they embraced in the centre circle at full time, that was a big moment. And then they obviously go down the Cop end, and they're all sort of climbing off the goals and stuff. And I thought Slot, you know, such class to sort of play down his role in the achievement and just sort of bring it back full circle to Jurgen Klopp when he was what Klopp did last year, sort of singing the Slot song, and you know, Slot did vice versa, and just handled brilliantly on the day, and it makes you think now they've got the best part of a month to sort of plan out the logistics of what this title lift is going to look like, and I think, you know, supporters are going to be in for another sort of famous day in what, 3-4 weeks?
Yeah, I don't think I was prepared. I was getting the train into here about 1:15, and I must admit I wasn't prepared for the occasion. Like you was it? I don't know which one of you said before that because it had become apparent that they were going to win it. It wasn't like a cup final, so I didn't really know what the atmosphere was going to be like. But on the train on the way in, like you say, Virgil van Dijk asking people to wear red, you could see immediately everyone on the platform was wearing red. Everyone on the train was wearing red. And there was like a bunch of like middle-aged fellas all drinking mini bottles of Prosecco on the train, which just made me laugh. But you could see that the atmosphere, people were getting there early, people were up for it, and it just looked like the most emotional day. And for people, we were in the same school year, weren't we? And for people our age, in our 30s, who never did get 18 months old when they won it in 1990, so you never did get to see them win the league. It's hard to put into words because there was a time. Yeah, but there was a time though, 2009 and 2014, I started to think like, they're never going to win this league.
Yeah.
You know, like it must be the same for Newcastle fans who thought they'd never win a trophy before the Carabao Cup.
Well, it was the Newcastle final. Liverpool fans were kind of not criticised, but it was commented that they weren't all wearing red.
There was definitely a debate on the Monday on social media after that game about all that. Yeah.
So I do think that might have, whether that's fed into Van Dijk's thinking or not, but it's certainly fed into the subconscious of the fans. It's funny because for the second year running, I've been like, I've never seen that at Anfield before. It's like last year it was the injury time in Klopp's last game where they all started chanting, doing the song, and it was like, well, that was a bit special. This time, I just think because of that, I think they knew what to do. Because weirdly, that was kind of a preparation for it, because I went and watched the team coach come in last year, and they did the same again. And it was almost identical, but more this time, because they actually had something to celebrate on top of it. Even though we know they hadn't won it by that point, but it was going to happen at some point. And I think the fans had decided, right, it's going to be today. Yeah. They've gone, right, it's going to be today, and we're going to absolutely enjoy it. We're going to win it now. Don't want it to go on any longer. This is our time. And I think everything fell perfectly for them. And for the likes of yous, it's quite funny. I can't relate to it because obviously I've seen it before. What was it like? I know you weren't there, but we watched it. And you've been...
The 2021, we were obviously very privileged to be in there. There was only 500 people allowed on the ground, and we were two of them. But I thought they made a really good job of that. Could have been very awkward and could have been very flat. They obviously had the specially constructed podium and the cop, and because it was a night game, the fireworks made it all seem a bit more special, and they made the absolute best of it. But it was never going to be what it could have been with the fans in there. So I think that's driven on the players to an extent this season. Harvey Elliott said something similar recently, and to what factor I don't know, but it's certainly been in the back of their minds at some stage that they want to win the league because they want to have this celebration with the supporters, and now they're going to get a few bites at the cherry, aren't they? They obviously had yesterday, and then they've got the Palace game, and I think the remaining weeks of the season, you don't want to see Liverpool fall away and do nothing between now and the end of the season, but I think the fans are going to absolutely enjoy themselves for the last 4 games, and the parade is just going to be like something you've never seen before, because I think with the parade now is it's not 24 hours after or 12 hours after a Champions League winning a European city. Supporters from all over the world have got 4 weeks to plan it out, to map out the logistics, the accommodation. They've got time to come into the city, and I think we're going to see 1 million people on the city streets on the 26th of May. Yeah,
I think what you said before about Slot singing the Klopp song at the end as well, I think that moment kind of encapsulates why it's been such a good transition, and why Slot has done such a good job, because it's that understated, confidence in himself to still celebrate the old manager and embrace the old manager and embrace what he did, and
there's just no insecurity there.
There's no insecurity at all.
We should embrace him. He left him a team that.
Yeah. But you see so many managers, don't you, take over clubs and start to change things, dismantle or distance themselves, even if they don't do it sort of purposely. But Slot hasn't done that at all, and if anything, it's almost like he was like Klopp's assistant, and he's kind of been promoted.
That's the bonus of having not signed anyone apart from Chiesa, and I think that was obviously, I think, mentioned on a podcast the other day that made a lot of people a lot angry during the summer, and even going into the start of the season. And I'm talking like the opening month or 2 of the season, and fans were still going, "Why did they do this? Do this?" And in the end, it's because of that it's all worked out. It's because they've had that continuity, consistency. And going back to what I was saying before, you had, with the exception of Chiesa, the entire squad had missed out on it last season as well. So every single one of them, and by all accounts, we haven't had a chance to speak to Chiesa yet, but whether we ever will, I don't know. But he's meant to have bought into it straight away. So you've got an entire, the coaching staff has changed. But Slot mentioned it, he said, the culture. I didn't have to change the culture. I had to change a bit of tactics, but I didn't have to change the players, and I didn't have to change the culture because of what had been left by Jurgen Klopp. And he even said that he speaks to him now and again. I'm not saying it's before every game or anything, but he might just have had why wouldn't you ask somebody who's been there for that long to go, well, what's the thing of this player? What's with this one? What's with this one? I think what else helped as well is that Klopp didn't go into another job. Yeah, it's a bit different if he'd have gone off and been manager somewhere else. That he wouldn't have had the time, nor would he felt inclined to do it. The next question is, do you reckon Klopp will be knocking around for the 100%. Last game?
Yeah. He's in the city for the NFC Foundation event on the Friday. He's the honorary ambassador, is he? Or something along those lines. So he's going to be in Liverpool for that weekend. So he'll be there, pretty sure of it. And I think the club will sort of make a little bit of a deal of it over that weekend, just sort of mark it. I think Rafa Benitez will be there as well, because he's in the city for the Istanbul 20th anniversary. So
I wonder whether they'll bring them on before the game, per them rather than, after they'll say like, and here these two former Champions League winning managers, no pressure on them.
Yeah. I think they should celebrate Klopp. I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? And I'm sure there'll be certain things that he won't want to do. But I'd almost be tempted to have him on the to have him do the parade with them, because he never got to have his parade, did he? Like I know he always said we will do it, but
on the parade or the lap of honour.
No, the Monday.
Oh yeah,
on the bus.
No, Klopp's already said that he's going to be in the crowd. He said he's going.
Oh, okay.
He said, but he's going to watch from the sidelines.
Yeah. So go on. Let's go back to. I mean, I've made some bullet points to talk about.
Go on, give us the bullet points.
You've kind of discussed them all, but let's go back to the start of the season.
Yeah.
First impressions of Slot. Obviously, you've seen him out on tour. You've seen him in press conferences. What were your first impressions? And then when did you start to think, hang on, I think they are going to be capable of winning the title?
I mean, my first impressions of him were that he was quite contrarian. Obviously, on the US tour, he wasn't saying an awful lot. And speaking to people around the club at the time, the idea was that he feels like he doesn't want to say too much because he hasn't done anything yet. But it was maybe a bit of an eye-opening experience for him. The fact that he's the Liverpool manager, so he will be expected to do pre-match, post-match, all that sort of stuff. He only did a couple. I think he did maybe a pre-match before one of the friendlies and then a post-match after another one. And every sort of question, he'd sort of say the opposite. And he sort of retained that to an extent, but he certainly warmed up. So at the time, it was sort of, well, if you say, so-and-so is a good player, isn't he? And he'd say, well, they're all good players. It was that type of stuff. So it was like a sort of soft launch with him. He didn't come in, he wasn't making any bold statements or promises. But apparently in the first meeting with the players, he never looked to sort of talk down what was possible or sort of hint that he was a new manager getting his feet under the table. It was always, we finished third last season, we can definitely improve on that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the players were receptive to it. The winners of the group, shall we say, certainly Mo Salah, Van Dijk, they were all impressed by the scale of the ambition. So I think the players bought into it almost from day one, and at no point of the season have they had like a bit of a rocky patch or look like our Slot's been found out, anything like that. They've had little draws here or there, but they've been the most consistent team, haven't they? And that's why they've won it with a month to spare.
Yeah. What were your first impressions then?
That he had a very shiny head, of which I very much approved.
Not very shiny today, are you?
No, but
you growing it back?
Yeah, it's. I'm doing like a Movember for my head.
Oh, right, okay.
So yeah, kind of the same. Actually, I'd not got onto the contrarian stuff until you mentioned it, and I was like, oh yeah. Like when you'd ask him something, it'd just be like, no, I'm not going to answer that question. I'll just answer this one instead. Which is a little bit of a
Imagine
politician's.
being so contrarian.
Imagine that, yeah.
Imagine having to ask one question. And then,
It's like the immovable, what is it? Movable objects and all that kind of stuff.
Irresistible force.
Yeah. Or the very resistible force.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that. I tell you, it was quite interesting though. Actually, when they won at United 3-0 and everyone's getting carried away, and he's like, "Well, this is all very well, but we haven't played any midweek games yet. Let's just, this team wasn't good enough to cope with the Europa League and the Premier League. What are they going to do when they get into the Champions League?" And I don't think it can be. Obviously, they went out against PSG on penalties, but I don't think it can be understated just how well they did managing that all the way through the new look group stage where they're playing extra games.
Yeah, they've been unlucky with it.
Yeah. I think what they've learned from that, and I've said in the pods in the past, is just finishing the top 8. Don't bother about trying to finish top because it doesn't really make that much odds. That was the kind of impression, and he was very much feet on the ground. But going back to what you mentioned about the thing where he spoke to the players, I think Kanati's made mention of that today as well. And I think they were quite pleased with that. And also he said something about away games, didn't he? He said, you won 9 games away from home last season. Man City won 13 or 14. So if you want to win the league, this is what you got to do. And the fact that he's talking about, at Liverpool we got 82 points. I'm pretty sure we can get more than that. And they're on 82 now. So 82 is all they really needed. In fact, they only needed 80 to win the league in the end. So they're going to end up with more than that. And I think it was just that he set that ambition really high. And then when you look back at his record recently, he's won the league this year. He finished second last year in Holland, and he won the league the year before that. So this is, as a player, he didn't necessarily achieve as much as the players that he's managing. But often not the very best players become very good managers. And as Slot himself mentioned, he mentioned it when he was asked about what message did he get from John Henry, and he says, well, I can't remember, probably just say congratulations when he was on the pitch, but he did say, must be a big moment for them because they put their trust in me. You know, I'm not the simple and obvious choice to replace Jurgen Klopp. You know, they could have brought in a big name or someone like that. They decided to go with me. And then it's obviously worked out so well because he's similar to Slot tactically in terms of his football philosophy, not exactly the same. But in some ways he's also similar to Klopp in his personality. The different personalities, but I remember we had the conversation when he first joined in our office. Someone said, he's not got much charisma, has he? Arne Slot. And it's like, well, he hasn't compared to Jurgen Klopp because who has?
It's a different type of charisma.
Well, that's it.
It's come out.
He's got the confidence and composure. Not composure. Self-assurance is what I was looking for there. That Klopp's got. Just shows it in a different way.
He said something yesterday on the pitch when he was interviewed by Sky after the game, which I loved, and they asked him about the season, going into the season, did you believe they could win the title? And someone said something along the lines of lots of people thought the top four would have been a good achievement, and he sort of went, well, that would be really unfair on this group of players. You know, to just say top four is an achievement. They're capable of so much more, and I love that standard that he set, and he clearly has put that message throughout the club, as you said before, from the moment he walked in, that we aspire for this, not to just be in top four, not to just have a decent transitional season. And the other moment for me, the United game, I mean, you mentioned it. Look, I mean, Liverpool, lots of teams have dominated United this season, but it was such a self-assured. We know how difficult Old Trafford has been for Liverpool. I don't care how bad they are. It's always an occasion. It can always be difficult, but it was such a self-assured performance from not just the team, but the manager as well. And he went down to Sky, didn't he, afterwards, and again, kind of dissected his tactics and how he did it. And considering that was his third game, and not to worry about giving any tactical knowledge away to all the viewers at home, he just went about his business, and I thought that was really impressive. When was the moment you thought, you know what, this is on?
Yeah, I think the weekend of Arsenal losing to West Ham at home and then Liverpool beating Man City, because that was quickly followed on the heels of the midweek game where Arsenal drew Forest and Liverpool beat Newcastle, and suddenly what could have been maybe a 3-point lead had Arsenal won that game, suddenly it was maybe 11, and at that point it was, I think that was the first time the fans were thinking about winning the league actually against Newcastle. So those games always stick out for me. The Brentford win, where Núñez comes off the bench and Harvey Elliott, to be fair, and contributes significantly with Núñez with his 2 goals. That was a big one, and funnily enough, that was one that Andy Robertson referenced. Recently he said, coming off the pitch, that was sort of the one where you think you've come away with a big win there, because you know, seasons can turn on late goals and late results and big wins. Brentford and Bournemouth, those 2 games for me as well, because Bournemouth at the time were flying, weren't they? Absolutely going for top 4.
They'd beaten Arsenal, they'd beaten Man City.
Yeah. So Liverpool go there and win 2-0. And Salah's second, because at the time Bournemouth were really knocking on the door trying to get an equaliser, and then Salah stands up Kirkhouse, doesn't he? Sticks it in the far corner. Liverpool have got the second and the home and hosed. And that for me had a little bit of an air of, you know, I think I wrote at the time, just taking the wind out of Arsenal's sails, because they would have been thinking Bournemouth can get something here, Liverpool are going to drop points, and then Liverpool get the second, and you know, Arsenal's what might have been looking at, you know, what would have been maybe a 6-point lead at the time, suddenly it's 8. So yeah, probably, you know, I've named a few there, but those are the sort of results that stick out for me.
Arsenal losing to West Ham was interesting in the sense that kind of highlighted that it wasn't the weekend that Liverpool won the league, but it was the weekend that Arsenal kind of made it clear that they weren't able to win it. I think for them, I know you were going to say, like you were saying, Arsenal the favourites, this, that and the other, but there was a very good reason for that, and I've explained it millions times over. It's to do with the fixture list and the experience they had last season and the season before. But what they have shown this season is that they are not capable mentally of this squad of players that they've got at the moment of challenging properly for the title. They did very, very well last season to get so close to Man City. Season before they fell away. But this season, I think that that Liverpool then went the following day and went to Man City and won 2-0. They didn't have to win that game because they'd got the surprise was that West Ham had won at Arsenal. If Liverpool had lost to Man City, there was no surprise there. But what Liverpool did there, they just saw that as an opportunity and just turned the screw. And every time they've had the opportunity to do that, they've done it. And Arsenal haven't. Look at when Liverpool drew with Fulham, which at the time some people were saying 2 points dropped. That weekend, Arsenal drew at home with Everton. I'm pretty sure City didn't have a positive result either. So, when Liverpool dug themselves out of a hole there, and Arsenal jumped into one, basically. And I think that's kind of the way the season's been. And you just look at all the stats, all the metrics, as people like to say. Liverpool have got the best attack by miles. They've lost the fewest games only by one, but they've won the most by a long way. Yeah. And they've got the second best defence to Arsenal by playing a kind of football that apparently over the past 2 months has seen them stumbling across the line. It's like, come on, can we address that now? Can we address that? Have they been playing as well as they were in the first half of the season? No, but that's when the hard work was done. You're getting now to February, March, and when they went to places like Everton, got 2-2. I know Slot was complaining about it after the final whistle. Always a decent result going to Everton, getting that. Villa 2-2. Yep. PSG lost there. Yeah. So they were good results at a difficult time when Liverpool had an awful lot of games and they were juggling quite a bits and bobs, and ultimately that's what saw them fall over against Newcastle in the League Cup final. It's the only one time you can say they totally let themselves down, and there was a lot of mitigation to that for all those reasons that I've just said. But Slot said it in the press conference after the game yesterday. He said, listen, he says, we were very disappointed when we lost against PSG, but we understood we had a bigger goal. Yeah. He says, from the minute that you first walked into the club, they underlined the importance of winning the Premier League and saying that's the one that we want more than anything. And I think that's probably always going to be the case. So, for Liverpool to... You're right there.
Just having a little laugh.
Little laugh there.
So, what are you
little
laughing
laugh
about?
there from our Everton supporting producer. Twitter meme. Okay.
I'm glad that you're memeing whilst we're talking. You should be watching and listening.
Yeah, exactly. You should be gaining the experience.
Yeah, I hope so.
I'm old enough to remember Everton winning the league twice. So, come on. It is possible. Don't give up. Leicester have won it. Blackburn. Seriously. If Liverpool can go 30 years without winning it, Anyway, you've lost my train of thought now. What was I talking about? Arsenal's mentality has been weak. Liverpool's has been strong. And for all the stuff that we talk about, the talent on the pitch, as Gorst said before, that's come from Arne Slot and the stuff that he said at the start of the season, and he made it clear. And the other thing I was going to say, last season, Liverpool had loads of injuries and finished with 82 points and managed to win a trophy. This season, Arsenal have had not as many injuries, though you wouldn't, if you've listened to some of their people, then you wouldn't think that. They're not going to get anywhere near 82 points. They might win the Champions League, but they've not dealt with it as well as Liverpool have. And again, that also comes back down to mentality.
Yeah, the thing that excites me is, you look around the squad and you've obviously still got the the 3 or 4, truly elite in terms of Alisson, Van Dijk, Salah. And then, the likes of McAllister, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, Kanate, sort of heading into the last year of his contract. I'd like to see that resolved. But around, Conor Bradley's an emerging force, Curtis Jones getting better and better. All of these players have still got the best years ahead of them. And I think that's really exciting for Liverpool. For the, sort of short to medium term over the next 12 to 18 months, 2 years of the Van Dijk and Salah contract. So I think it's going to be really interesting now to see what happens in the summer when Slot really sort of gets his hands dirty with moulding his own squad and going from there. So I think it's a really exciting time to be following Liverpool, covering Liverpool and cheering them on in the stands.
And I think also picking up on that point is it's easy to see where Liverpool could improve. It's not like they've got a squad where you go, right, that's it, you're not going to get any better, which you could argue probably a little bit 2019-20.
Yeah.
It was always going to be a dip after that. But this one, improved the left-back options, certainly improved the striking options. I know you've got to be in your bonnet about the number 10 options as well, so you could improve that. There's 3 positions straight away.
Yeah, and you can have more cover in other areas as well. So
exactly. So they're a squad that's probably reached the end as a collective, but then how often does squads stay together? It's very strange that one stayed together completely for 2 years. Yeah. So I do think there's
but like the core of the midfield is absolutely sorted, isn't it? Like, those 3 there. Now, what transfer business that looks like now, going back, what was it, 18 months or so?
I think Alexis McAllister's the best midfielder in the world. And the reason why I say that, Bellingham might have better PR maybe, but McAllister can play defensive midfield, he can play attacking midfield, he can play in between, he's scrappy, he can score goals from distance, his passing is out of this world. Was it him that slipped the pass through for Gakpo when Gakpo should have shot? I mean, those sorts of little passes in behind defences are just gold.
Scores big goals.
He scores big goals.
Yeah.
He's got a winning mentality. Obviously, he's won trophies with his country and his club. I just don't think they get better than him.
I think that's come to the fore actually recently when Liverpool have sort of been lagging a little bit. It's almost like he's put them on the back and dragged them through at times. And it comes back to that mentality. You know, when you're trying to win a World Cup for Argentina, there's not a lot more pressurised situations in football than that. You know, the sort of how passionate they are about winning the World Cup in that country. And what did he go? Spent 30 years, was it, without winning a World Cup?
What's 1986 to 2022?
Yeah, so it's similar sort of burden for Liverpool. You know, but obviously Argentina. So he knows how to handle that, and I think that's really shone through in the last maybe month, 6 weeks, something like that.
And the thing about the World Cup is that when he didn't start the competition playing, but he had by the end. And I think, you know, we've said this before, that the second half of the season, if Gravenberch was the one who caught the eye in the first half of the season, it's been McAllister in the second half. I don't think it was any coincidence. It was him that pushed forward against West Ham when it went to 1-1 to win the corner. You know, I don't think, and it was him that ended up scoring the goal that put Liverpool 2-1 up against Tottenham, and it was Gravenberch's pressure and that created that chance. And McAllister puts it away with a kind of, he doesn't really score many poor goals, does he?
No,
he's very Argentinian, basically. Very Argentinian. Yeah. And I think I remember the time when the lad at Enzo at Chelsea, and Liverpool kind of linked with him, and then Chelsea went big for him. And I remember at the start of last season, they played each other, didn't they, at the first game? And McAllister did okay, but he was playing a kind of like defensive role, which he didn't really want to be playing in, let's be honest. And Enzo was reasonably decent, but since then, you know, McAllister is just head and shoulders. You're right. I probably, there's a very strong argument that he is definitely among the best midfielders. He's certainly the best midfielder in the Premier League, I think.
Yeah.
I think certainly in the last 3 or 4 months.
It's great to hear him sort of knock down Real Madrid interest as well, wasn't it, last week? And he got asked about it in Argentina. Yeah, he's been fantastic. And what is he now?
25,
nearly
26?
2 years into his contract. You know, Liverpool have got him for the foreseeable, and yeah, it's going to be great to watch him continue being one of the best around.
And he loves to tackle. Loves to tackle. Exactly. And loves to be fouled as well.
Isn't he? do you know he reminds me of, not in this style of play, but probably in his importance to the team, but slightly overlooked, is Modric. Modric played for Real Madrid throughout all his glorious years, and it was only towards the end. Well, he's not the end, but it's only later on in his career that people started to go, Modric is good, isn't he? And I feel like that with McAllister. I don't really feel like he's talked about beyond Liverpool. But watching him every week, he does every job on the pitch really, really well. He's got such a winning mentality. You know, like you say, he doesn't score bad goals, but he's involved in key moments. And if Liverpool need him to go and do a job in defensive midfield, he'll do that as well as anyone. And there are other great midfielders. I love Declan Rice. I think he's a great midfielder, but I don't necessarily think he's got the versatility that McAllister has. And obviously McAllister has been involved in some big moments and big trophies now.
The positional changes helped as well. The fact that the pair of them are there, because he played a lot like that certainly for Argentina and certainly for Brian as well.
Yeah.
I think he sort of gets overlooked a little bit because of, you know, he's playing for club, he's playing alongside Mo Salah, he's playing for country, he's playing for Lionel Messi. And I think, you know, you look back at when they won the World Cup in Qatar, I think you'll see, you know, if we went back and focused on McAllister's importance, I think it'll shine through. I just think maybe at the time everyone was just caught up in the idea of it being the Messi World Cup, and everyone all the neutrals sort of wanted him to do it, didn't they? So, and
it's kind of similar, like you say, this year with Salah. You know, it's been, you know, even yesterday took the iconic moment, didn't he, with his phone? But McAllister is just, it's just really, really good. He's really, really
brilliant strike that as well with his left foot.
Beautiful strike, and you know, I was watching back some of the best goals it'll be forgotten about a little bit because Liverpool lost the game, but Fulham away.
Yeah.
We were right behind that as well, weren't we?
Maybe 5 brilliant goals that he scored for Liverpool. Was it Sheffield United?
Real Madrid as well.
Fulham.
Yeah.
I know it wasn't the world's greatest goal, but scored against Everton.
Yeah, and then obviously
the
Fulham half volley last season.
Tottenham.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of going back, really, I just want to make a point about the Brentford game. For me, was the game I started to think, because I think going into that period, lots of people, naming no names, were kind of looking at the fixture list and going, well, Arsenal have got this run of games now, and Liverpool have got Brentford away, Bournemouth away, Man City away, and
Forest
they were almost adding
well.
up the points, weren't they?
And we're naming no names. Did you mean me?
Yeah, we're all guilty. We're all guilty of that throughout the season. But I think Arsenal was certainly thinking, all right, Liverpool have had an amazing half of the season, but that's our chance.
That's what I'm saying about the mentality.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, it certainly does. And the first barrier, because Liverpool go to Brentford, and Brentford did have chances, but Liverpool were dominating and knocking on the door. Nunes scores those 2 goals. They win the game. Arsenal played that evening, didn't they, against Villa?
Yeah.
2-0 up and slipped to 2-2. And it just felt like there was a bit of doubt there. And I think if Liverpool hadn't won that game, I wonder whether Arsenal would have slipped up. But they did. And then obviously Bournemouth was the following week. But yeah, I think all those key moments, like you say, it comes back to mentality. Liverpool have overcome, Arsenal have struggled. And
it's been 21 years since Arsenal won the league.
Yeah.
And I think people forget that. So they're kind of in that zone that Liverpool were in, that United were in, that some other clubs are in. I mean, Tottenham forever.
Well, we did a piece, didn't we, the other day about the size of the achievement. And if you just look at league titles, I mean, some clubs go a long time without winning trophies. But with league titles, it's really, really difficult. There's a reason why people want to win it, because it's the hardest thing to win, isn't it? And obviously Liverpool went such a long time, but Arsenal's 21 years. Chelsea is now what?
It's not that long.
No, it's not that long, but it's still creeping up. You're still creeping up to a decade. United's 13, isn't it? 12 is it? Yeah. So it quickly creeps up, doesn't it? And it's so difficult. And I think
because teams have kind of another thing that Slot said. He said loads of people are saying it's 2 Premier League titles in 35.
Yeah,
I'd like to point out it's 2 in 5.
I've been absolutely writing that for months. Clinched the second title in 5 years. I think.
Because that's interesting, because it is, you mentioned the core of the team is the same. Yeah. They've probably got another go. They've got at least another 2 goals at it.
Yeah.
I also think as well, that's a good point you make in terms of the likes of Alisson, Salah, Van Dijk, Robertson, Trent. These are players now who are 2-time Premier League winners on top of everything else that they've achieved. So it's, in years to come, it'll look like an era of, huge success, as opposed to maybe they just sort of got a little bit lucky one year and they won the Prem. This looks like a real sustained period of, put it up alongside, what was happening in the 70s and the 80s.
Definitely.
It's what Chelsea were good at in the 2010s, I think. Even though they weren't particularly great, they'd always pick up a trophy along the way. And Liverpool got 2019, 20, 22, 24, 25, and they picked up some big ones as well.
Yeah. And alongside that, they've reached cup finals, haven't they? They've challenged, they've reached cups. And I always think if you reach cup finals and miss out, you shouldn't be too harsh, because getting there is an achievement. And if you're challenging, eventually something will give. And Liverpool are consistently in the conversation, aren't they? And Klopp put them there, I think. I want to read a couple of comments and emails that I've had. Steve Payne, no pain, no gain, has messaged in to say...
I bet he's never heard that before ever in his entire life.
No, well, he actually signed off, no pain, no gain, so he's picked it up, which is good. He's ran with it. He said, I hope the club invest in 1 or 2 quality additions in the squad this summer, which we didn't do after winning it last time. It'll be interesting to see where we have to spend to replace any players that may want to leave, as opposed to positions we want to strengthen, assuming players stay. A great day, however, Trent's silence at the end was deafening.
Don't worry about all
silence
that.
Was that?
Just honestly, I don't like telling people how they should enjoy things, but don't be worrying about transfers and contracts at the moment. You've just got 4 weeks to enjoy what should just be an incredible few weeks. But I'd counter-argue, no pain, no gains point there. Liverpool did invest when they won the Premier League title in 2020. They got Thiago and they got Jota and they got Tsimikas.
Yeah.
Maybe 2019 he's thinking about when he signed Harvey Elliott and Sepp Vandenberg and Adrian, but then Liverpool went and won the Premier League by 18 points, so that was the right decision.
You know, and I know people won't like to hear this, but I just think as well, lay off Trent. I don't want Trent to lead Liverpool. I don't think anyone does that is associated with Liverpool. He very well might, but he's an incredible player. He's contributed to an incredible team, incredible season. He's remained, all right, he might not be giving people the answer that they want, but he's remained ultra professional throughout.
What was his silence, by the way?
I don't know, because as well, how many players, a few of them spoke, didn't they, on the pitch, but it doesn't necessarily mean...
Have you seen the video where he's gone into the dressing room and he's got the selfie and he's doing the whole thing? Yeah, it didn't exactly look like somebody who was trying to keep
silent.
quiet.
He was singing Freed from Desire, wasn't he?
Yeah. So if he moves on, then fine. But like you say, just enjoy it for now and celebrate him. He's an incredible player and he scored at Leicester.
He might only have 4 games left.
Yeah. And slightly different question from Oliver from Germany, who says, looking at the books at the background of the podcast studio, in your opinion and your colleagues, what's the most interesting book you've read about Liverpool FC, and what when I would like to learn something about the history and the culture of the club? I know immediately what I'm going to say, but I read his question when he sent it in last week.
You've had to give quite a lot of preparation time for that one.
It's been a nice time for me to name drop the book that I'm co-author of, but I can't even remember the name of it. Brian Reed's
40 Years of the Same Bed.
No, Epic Swindle.
Epic Swindle
was good. That's for maybe younger fans or newer Liverpool fans. That was the story about Tom Hicks and George Gillette's potentially or nearly ruinous ownership period, wasn't it, between 2007 and 2010, where Liverpool were just nowhere near. Well, I suppose they went far off in terms of nearly won the Champions League, but yeah, it's just a strange period in the club history, wasn't it, of what was going on off the field. So anyone who hasn't read that, I'd recommend that one.
I love 40 Years with the Same Bed. As Brian Reed's other book, I think it really encapsulates what it was like, especially for someone younger like myself, to read about the 80s and following the club. I thought it was really interesting, and also I think I'm sure it was written. It was written before they won the league in 2020. So it was sort of that journey, near misses. You know, so I think that it's a really beautifully written book, and it's a really good read. So if you're looking for something about the culture of the club, I'd definitely recommend that. Anything, Ian?
Yeah,
I couldn't tell you the last time I read a book on football. Couldn't. Last thing I want to do when I get away from here is pick up something and read. Yeah. So no.
What are you reading now? Are you reading? No.
Okay,
fair enough. Let's finish off with.
You're laughing. That's actually the truth as well. It's like it's no. Don't want to carry on.
Before we finish off, any great moments that you saw yesterday that perhaps people didn't see?
The best bit is when they were celebrating in front of the Kop and the ball boys who were and ball assistants, who were all members of the academy. That you could see them I didn't know whether to celebrate with the players or not. Yeah. And Alisson just went straight into them. Yeah. Right. And then they were just all on the pitch, and there's some great pictures, and that was the best moment easily.
That's great. That's brilliant.
Yeah, there was a couple in the mix zone. The Arne Slot's brother was walking through with various members of the family, I guess. And I just overheard one of them. He was talking about when Slot was on the pitch singing the Klopp song, and someone said to his brother, "Well, you must have got the singing voice in the family then." And John W. Henry was loitering in the mix zone and didn't quite seem to know what it was. and actually
hang on. That could be like most of the players, to be honest.
Yeah,
so rarely in there.
He sort of asked a reporter who was there, well, what do you guys do here? And then he said, we're journalists waiting to speak to the players. And as soon as he heard that, he sort of, I'm not speaking to any ears, and just sort of moved away. It was quite sharpish. And Mike Gordon giving me a polite no when I asked, did he have 2 minutes to speak about how great the season has been.
Linda Pizzuti was serving people behind one of the food kiosks as well, wasn't she? So,
So Mike Gordon at Fenway Park in 2019, where we briefly discussed Planes, Trains and Automobiles.
Right.
It's a film, which is a great film, by the way, if you've not seen it.
I've not seen it.
No, it's very good.
Okay. Any other points you'd like to make before we say goodbye?
No, I guess just these next few weeks are going to be really something to savour, aren't they? And before you start getting into transfer targets for the summer and all that sort of stuff, I think supporters fans have waited a long time for this, haven't they? An awful long time, and it's here to be enjoyed.
Yeah,
Savoured. And the Crystal Palace game is going to be incredible. It's going to be similar to yesterday. And then the parade is just going to top it all off. And that's going to be like nothing any of us have ever seen, I think.
They've got 4, as you mentioned before, they've got 4 weeks to enjoy it. 4 weeks. And then they can start to worry about when the transfer window opens the following week after that. I just think it's celebrate the team and the squad that's done this, celebrate each other as fans. Well, so don't be angry on social media. If you're going to be angry, don't direct it at me. Actually, no, if you are going to be angry, do direct it at me. I can take it.
But this is why people beg for transfers. But this is why you sign players to do things like this.
Yeah.
So
and they didn't sign anyone. Or what happened?
And but what I'm saying is, this is the end goal.
Yeah.
And
not the other way around.
Celebrate every game.
Exactly,
now.
that's the thing. Who won the transfer market last summer? Liverpool didn't win it, but they won the Premier League. Yeah. So shut up.
Okay, well, on that note,
Nord Person of the Week.
Nord Person of the Week we're going to name, but please don't tell our listeners to shut up.
No, I wasn't saying that. I was saying to people who put more stock in the transfer market than actually winning trophies. Would you tell them to remain voluminous or whatever?
Vociferous in your...
Yes.
Sorry?
I was saying, are you suggesting that they should actually remain...
Well, they can enjoy it how they like, but they should remember that buying players.
The reason you support the club is for Sunday and the next 4 weeks to come.
Nord Person of the Week.
Oh, it's got to be Slot. It's got to be Slot. It has to be.
Nord Person of the season.
Yeah.
Incredible achievement.
Yeah, he's waited all season for this, so well done, Arne.
Yeah,
it's the big achievement.
He was made up when he won the league, but now he's had this.
Yeah,
there was a little bit of a Klopp-esque fist bump as well, wasn't there, with his staff, which is a break from the norm.
His top that he had on was quite tight as well, wasn't it? I think he didn't do him any favours.
But that's ruined his Nord Person of the Week now, isn't it?
Theo's not here, so I had to do something. You know what I mean?
Right, we will leave it there. Are we back on Friday, Ian? I'm looking at you. Liverpool.com. What day they recording? Tomorrow. So you've got another podcast there, and then we'll be back Thursday, Friday. I'm not sure, but we'll be back. So
who's he playing this week? Chelsea.
Chelsea first guard of honour. It's going to be good. There's good food in the Chelsea press box as well, so that's okay.
Guards of honour from Chelsea, from Arsenal, from
Brighton
and
Crystal Palace.
Yeah, they don't have to do it.
If only if they didn't.
Yeah.
Is it not mandatory now? Is it sort of?
It's not mandatory. It's just a sort of
implied.
That's why Bernardo Silva didn't do it. He just couldn't be bothered.
Right, we will leave it there. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your support. Give us a like, subscribe, press the bell. Be happy. Goodbye.